学園闘争以降くすぶり続けた若者たちのやり場のないエネルギーは大人たちへの反抗と奇抜なファッションという形で一斉に花開いた。当時日本中で大暴れした不良学生たちはすっぱりと呼ばれ社会現象となった。そしてここ千葉でも
Delinquents are a mainstay in Japanese anime and manga. You can find them in all genres, from mainstream to sports or even in romantic comedies. But actually, Delinquent is a genre in itself, with many series focused solely on the life of these high school delinquents. In a country where politeness and respectfulness is prized, what is it about these troublemaking teens that attracts people, spawning so many successful franchises? To understand this, we first have to define a delinquent. In Japanese media, there are a few main characteristics to the delinquent genre. First, dressing. Delinquents usually dress in outlandish fashion with special attention to their hair. Next, behavior. Delinquents usually take part in all forms of vices, smoking, drinking, and gambling, despite the fact that they are underage. They are also usually extremely loud. Finally, there is almost always an emphasis on fighting, with the main characters being extremely gifted in brawling. Now that we have the definition, we can explore the world of the delinquent genre and what makes them so charming. There are a few buckets that series in the delinquent genre can fall into. The first is the straightforward brawler. In this bucket, characters often have the goal of becoming the strongest and ruling over their school and district. They can achieve this by fighting their way to the top, and these fights are hot-blooded, energy-filled brawls with characters displaying their inhuman strength and durability. The next bucket is the delinquent comedy. These follow characters who are as ridiculously strong as their brawler counterparts, but focus more on their pursuit of daily delinquency and the nonsense that it comes with. Often, the goal of these characters is to get laid, because for some reason, all main characters in delinquent mangas are virgins. Popular series in this bucket are Kyou Kara Orewa, a series where a pair of normal students transfer to another school and tries to change themselves to being delinquents. As well as Shonan Junai Gumi, a series where a pair of delinquents transfers to another school and tries to reform themselves to becoming normal students. Remember the latter because it becomes important later in the video. Finally, there are the hybrids, a fusion between delinquent and other genres. Beelzebub is the fusion with a shonen battle series. Holyland focuses on the martial arts of brawling, giving us an in-depth look into the techniques used on the streets. And Tokyo Revengers is a science fiction, fantasy, time travel series in which the main character has to travel back in time and live as his high school delinquent self in order to prevent terrible future occurrences. So, as you can see, the genre is malleable and can come in many shapes and forms. But there is one common theme across all of them. That is, despite their rough appearances and behaviors, these delinquents are often good at heart and some of the most genuine people. They have just been misunderstood by the society they are in, and are trying to find their place, be it through competing for strength or indulging in vices. All of them are fiercely loyal, willing to sacrifice their body to protect their friends, making for some very touching bromance. These characters are also extremely honest about who they are, unwilling to conform to what society expects of them. It is this genuine nature that makes them so likable. They aren't putting up a front, they are just who they are. But as these stories are all set in high school, it is easy to dismiss this openness and loyalty as naivety. They are all in their adolescence, a time where consequences are far lesser than later on in life. They have yet to face the real world, they have yet to grow up. But what happens when a series takes this high school delinquent and places them in the adult world? Then, we get one of my favourite series of all time, Great Teacher Onizuka. Great Teacher Onizuka is the sequel to Shonan Junai Gumi that we covered earlier on in the video. It follows the life of one of his two main characters, Onizuka Ikichi, who has graduated from school and is now in his 20s. Despite being an adult, Onizuka still behaves very much as a delinquent, spending most of his time drinking, gambling, and yes, still trying to get laid. The world has moved on without him. Even his best friend has left him behind, now owning his own bike shop. Through a few circumstances, Onizuka decides to be a teacher, graduating from a low-ranked teaching college and somehow getting a job at the prestigious Holy Forest Academy. He's put in charge of a second-year class, a class known for terrorizing their teachers. By all normal measurements, Onizuka is a terrible teacher. He's irresponsible, immature, and is worse at studying than his students. But Onizuka has something that the other teachers don't. As a delinquent, he never learned to wear a mask, and thus he is still unabashedly himself, for better or for worse. This is in contrast with many of the other teachers in the series, who are often just as flawed as Onizuka, but tries to hide it behind the act of being the kind-hearted teacher. With Onizuka, he doesn't hide his many flaws, and that is his greatest strength. Onizuka also honestly cares for his students, refusing to discriminate against any of them. And he follows up his words with his actions, never giving up on any of his students, even those that try to frame him and make him lose his job. His students see this, and the fact that he is not capable of hiding his true self. And it becomes apparent to them that he is not putting up an act of being a good teacher. He just honestly cares for them. One by one, he slowly wins the students over as he shows them care and concern in his own way, eventually transforming his entire class and earning his nickname as the Great Teacher Onizuka. And this is where I think the charm of the Delinquents ultimately lies. In a world where everyone puts up walls and masks to be polite and fit into society, these delinquents buck the trend. They are crass and rude, but also genuine and caring. They represent the characteristics that many of us left behind as we grew up. The idealism and naivete, the ability to open ourselves up and wear our hearts on our sleeves. But Delinquent series like Great Teacher Onizuka reminds us that there is something we can learn from these delinquents. That often, what is needed is not skills or capability. It is for us to be genuine and show that we truly care, because that can make all the difference. And this is the romanticism of the delinquent.